Susan Bones was a half-blood witch who attended Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry from 1991 to 1998 and was sorted into Hufflepuff House. She was a member of the prominent Bones family, a family with strong connections to the Ministry of Magic. This is the life of Susan Bones. Begin, I'd like to thank the sponsor of the video, and that is Amino. Everyone, Amino is an app with millions of different communities for people to unite around their passions, fandoms and interests. And while there are so many fantastic Amino communities, the one I'm obviously going to talk about to you today is, in my opinion, the best one, and that is the Harry Potter Community Amino app. This app is packed full of amazing features like quizzes, challenges, fantastic beautiful artwork, polls. There are literally so many features. In fact, I could spend most of the day going through them all, but I'm just going to highlight some of my favourite features and leave you to discover the rest of them yourselves. So one of my favourite features is the actual featured or newsfeed section, because it's so up to date and frequently changes, giving us so many posts to read. Like this one here, for example. We all know the Fantastic Beasts trailer was just released a couple of days ago, and right away what do we see? Top of the feed, we see an in-depth breakdown of the trailer by a community member. Even chatting to you guys is so much easier through the app, and I love the messages I get, like this awesome piece of artwork sent to me from Nelson. And personally, my favourite feature out of everything is the poll feature, because it's so beneficial to my channel. It's where my next videos fall into your hands. You all have the power to decide, like this one here, the latest one. What video do you all want to see next? The life of Aberforth Dumbledore or the life of Crabbe and Goyle? Make sure to cast your vote, but you cannot cast your vote unless you download the app from the link in the description and follow me, Harry Potter Folklore. And I'll also be doing a Q&A video through the Amino app that I'll be uploading to the channel, but like with the poll, you cannot register your question if you don't download the app. So get downloading, follow me, get those questions in, and thank you so much again to Amino for sponsoring the video and for helping create a wonderful Harry Potter community. Guys, please enjoy the video. Little is known about Susan's early life, other than the fact that she was born to at least one wizarding parent, and presumably named after her Aunt Amelia's middle name. Susan came from a largely magical family background, and also a rather powerful and respected family at that. Due to her family's position, they were sought after during the First Wizarding War by Death Eaters, and unfortunately, a large majority of them were killed. Susan was born in or around 1980, a year before the war ended. She started her education at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry in 1991, the same year as the famous Harry Potter. She was the second student to be called upon by Professor Minerva McGonagall for the sorting ceremony and was sorted into Hufflepuff House. The head of Hufflepuff House at the time was Professor Pomona Sprout, the teacher of herbology. She was sorted into this house along with Hannah Abbott, Justin Finch Fletchley, Wayne Hopkins, Megan Jones and Ernie Macmillan, all of whom she became very good friends with. It's also assumed that Hufflepuff House is the house that many of her relatives were sorted into as well. During her first year, Susan would learn all about the basics of magic and spell performance, like her other classmates. She was also present at the end of term feast during which Gryffindor won the House Cup, breaking Slytherin's 7-year winning streak. During her second year, Susan seemed to develop a crush on then Defense Against the Dark Arts professor Gilderoy Lockhart, which caused her to be off-task daydreaming during his lessons. She participated in the dueling club as a precaution due to the basilisk attacks that occurred after the Chamber of Secrets had been opened. During the meeting, Susan's friend Justin Finch Fletchley was almost attacked by a serpent, which was acting under the orders of Harry Potter via the use of his Parseltongue ability. Many assumed that Harry was egging the snake on, but in reality, he was the only thing that kept the snake from attacking Justin in the first place. Susan seemed to get along well with Hermione Granger, a Gryffindor, as the two shared an interest in Gilderoy Lockhart. Both girls would usually be seated together in his class, listening intently on Lockhart's every word. She and Hermione seemed to become quite good friends this year, and in herbology, both worked next to one another when potting mandrakes. Later in the year, however, Lockhart was shown to be a fraud. Presumably after knowing all the truth about him in the end of the school year, she lost all interest in him as he was no longer a great wizard as he appeared, who had done heroic deeds and performed extraordinary magic. During her third year, she would have to select what subject she wished to take and not continue with. Not much happened with Susan in this year in terms of drama, excitement, or any major events involving her. During Susan's fourth year, Hogwarts held the Triwizard Tournament, and Hufflepuff's very own Cedric Diggory was one of the Triwizard champions. It is very likely that Susan Bones supported Cedric in favour of Harry Potter as he was in her own house, and both her best friends Hannah Abbott and Ernie Macmillan were strong supporters of Diggory. In 1995, Hogwarts was to be under the watchful eye of the Minister and his personally appointed Defence Against the Dark Arts teacher, Dolores Umbridge. Umbridge worked with Susan's aunt in the Ministry, and both of them served on the court for Harry Potter's trial. When Umbridge came to Hogwarts, she ensured that no practical defensive spells would be taught in her lessons, despite the claims that Lord Voldemort had returned. Thus, she did not teach anything worth learning. However, the students still wanted to learn defensive practical magic, and with Harry having the best knowledge of defensive and offensive spells, Hermione Granger pledged the idea of forming an alliance to learn spells and also rebel against Umbridge. This would be called Dumbledore's Army, which Susan would become a member of. During the first meeting, Susan was curious to know whether Harry could produce a corporeal Patronus, a fact she had been told by her aunt, and Harry asked if she knew Madame Bones. Susan confirmed the familial relationship. Harry later gave lessons on how to produce a Patronus, but it is unknown whether Susan produced one or what form it took. Later on in the year, the Death Eaters who murdered her uncle Edgar and his family escaped from Azkaban, the wizarding prison, and many students questioned Susan for information about this. After the Death Eaters' escape, Susan told Harry that she understood how he felt, knowing that the person who had murdered his family was at large and constantly being asked questions about it. Harry finally had someone who could almost relate to his state of mind. Susan was pestered throughout the year by students asking about her family and its deceased members, which she found very distressing. On top of dealing with the murders of her family members, this was also her OWL year at Hogwarts, which left her in even greater stress as she attempted to keep it all together and do well in her exams. Also, on at least one occasion, Vincent Crabbe and Gregory Goyle took it upon themselves to bully Susan, making fun of her aunt and complaining that she was interfering with the Ministry of Magic's agenda. They went so far as to take her wand, and Harry, Ron and Hermione had to come to her aid. The trio duelled the two Slytherins, defeating them and forcing them to leave Susan alone. Susan got her wand back and learned about the DA meeting in the Room of Requirements. At the end of the year, Susan was among the DA members who came to Harry's aid when he was attacked on the Hogwarts Express by Malfoy, Crabbe and Goyle, her own erstwhile bullies. Susan and her friends all unleashed a volley of curses, which reduced the three to gigantic slugs. During the summer holidays before her 6th year began at Hogwarts, one of Susan's last living relatives and one of the greatest witches of her time, Amelia Bones, was personally murdered by Lord Voldemort in her own home, though to her credit, she did not go down without a fight. This caused Susan some distress and worry, as most of her family had been killed during the First Wizarding War, and now that the Second Wizarding War had been declared official, it was only a matter of time before Death Eaters sought out the remaining members of her family. When Susan returned to Hogwarts, she was learning how to apparate and on one occasion splinters herself during one of the lessons, losing one of her legs. Her leg was successfully reattached, but the incident appeared to leave Susan somewhat shaken. Later on in the school year, Hogwarts fell under attack by Death Eaters. The DA members were called to arms via their coins, and despite the murder of her aunt, Susan did not show up for battle and possibly try and avenge her. It is possible that since the DA meetings were no longer held, that Susan no longer carried her coin around with her and did not notice the call to arms message. Susan returned to Hogwarts for her 7th year, at which point the school was under the indirect control of Lord Voldemort. If she did not return, she would have been declared a fugitive, since attendance was compulsory for children of magical families that year. She rejoined Dumbledore's army, which had been reformed in a protest against Snape and the Carrows, and fought in the Battle of Hogwarts alongside the members of the DA and her professors. She was most likely in the Great Hall during the second half of the battle, and witnessed Harry Potter's final defeat of Lord Voldemort, and therefore the end to the Second Wizarding War, as she was not listed among the deceased. And that is all for today's video, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing to the channel if it is your first time watching. And if you're a fan of the channel and feel like you'd like to contribute, my restructured Patreon account is up and running. And in exchange for your contribution of a minimum of $1 a month, there are many rewards you can receive, like suggesting one of my upcoming videos, exclusive Patreon only videos for you to watch, and even one-to-one Skype calls where we can hang out and talk everything Harry Potter or anything in general. So please make sure to check out some of my other videos on the left hand side of the screen. My second channel, Game of Thrones Lore, is on the right hand side of the screen. And if you want to check out some merch, I've got a merch store on the bottom right, or you can click the link in the description below. Thanks again everyone, and I hope you all have a great day.